What do you think about your childhood? Did you enjoy your childhood? Well, I didn't. I didn't like feeling small and inexperienced and powerless to change the lives of others. I didn't like having to obtain permission each time I wanted to take any form of direct action that would make a difference in the lives of others. I didn't like being asked to maintain the status quo. I didn't like being told that I can't save them all. As a child, I asked many questions. Why do we eat chicken and fish, but we accord a higher value to the lives of, say, dogs and cats and elephants? Why can't I stop that man from beating his dog? Why can't we stop that man from conducting open burning? Why can't we stop people from dumping toxic waste and trash into rivers and oceans? But by the time I reached my later childhood years, I began to realize that I have two hands, same as everyone else, one for helping myself and one for helping others. I began to believe that if someone out there has to do something, then let me be the one. I may not have much influence or financial leverage, but I can do something. So in my school days, I started participating in clubs and societies, volunteering for cleanup campaigns, school beautification programs, charity runs, fundraising events. Later in my teenage years, I was determined that I would direct all my spare time and energy towards volunteering. I commenced volunteering with SPCA Selangor when I left school in 1996. Now I am a senior volunteer there, and I continue volunteering with them almost every weekend. My volunteer duties have increased to include activities like drafting petitions and letters and press statements, engaging government agencies and other organizations in policy work, advocacy and education work, conducting workshops for humane education and animal welfare legislation. I also train new volunteers almost every weekend. Please. Left? Yeah, left. Okay. In 2001, I joined the Malaysian Nature Society as a member and volunteer. In 2006, I started a new special interest group within the Malaysian Nature Society called Green Living, and at the same time also a family-based program called Eco Kids. So almost every month we would organize new activities, events, workshops, nature camps, outings, and we have articles in the newsletter. I respond to questions. We update our blogs with people's questions and inquiries. So we also train a lot of new volunteers, including those who are with us for only one occasion or one particular event. In 2006, I started Project Second Chance. This is a personal animal rescue initiative to rescue, vaccinate, neuter, bring for medical treatment all the animals that are the most vulnerable, including animals from pounds and shelters that are going to be put to sleep. So Project Second Chance benefits on average 20 to 30 needy animals a year. I think the first year I took on about 50 animals and I was burned out. So I also sponsor and coordinate the neutering of street animals and the animals that are being cared for by low-income individuals like my office cleaners and security guards. Last year, I commenced volunteering for Zoo Negara based on the belief that to have a world-class zoo, we need to be a world-class society, and it begins with you and me. Apart from this, I also volunteer for various other causes, including for the Bar Council Legal Aid Center, for Sampah Masyarakat and Waterfall Survivors, which are both Facebook groups, for the Revolving Library, which is a volunteer reading and literacy program. I donate blood, and also for causes such as Club Alami Tanjung Kupang, Turtle Conservation Society, and various other ad hoc events and projects. So why volunteer? What do I stand to gain from it? Okay. Our service as volunteers is valuable to the economy and nation. Volunteers perform a valuable community service that has economic worth. It also encourages accountability and transparency in the organizations. No doubt organizations need our contributions and our assistance, but at the same time, volunteers are persons without vested interests. This puts us in a neutral position, which is an ideal position to present feedback and to provide check and balance. For example, when I started volunteering with Zoo Negara, I was dismayed by the amount of styrofoam waste that was being generated every day. So I raised this issue with the education unit. They expressed their concerns, but they were afraid to take on more because they have so many responsibilities on their plate. They are afraid of repercussions from the superiors. They encounter the concession stands and people in the hot dog and popcorn stands daily. They don't want to be the one to raise an issue that would affect everyone's livelihoods. So I have nothing to lose. I have nothing at stake as a volunteer. So I raised the issue with zoo management. I engaged them in discussions. I offered alternatives and solutions. We researched the prices of eco-friendly biodegradable packaging. And finally, on Earth Day in April 2012, the zoo implemented a complete ban on styrofoam packaging in the zoo. So it took a volunteer to put enough pressure on the management to do it. We create our own small miracles when we volunteer. I have always believed in the ripple effect of kindness because I've witnessed it so many times myself. So many of the volunteers I trained ended up continuing to volunteer with other causes or motivating and encouraging their peers to volunteer. Volunteers I have trained at the SPCA later went on to foster or adopt or rehome animals of their own because they now have the knowledge and skills and confidence to do it themselves. Volunteers who helped out with the Malaysian Nature Society later went on to continue practicing environmentally responsible habits like energy efficiency and water conservation and fuel economy at home. When we volunteer, we benefit so many more than just the immediate beneficiaries. That's something that many of us don't realize. For example, when we volunteer at the Legal Aid Center to provide legal advice and representation to a victim of domestic violence, we are reaching out to more than just her. Her children are observing. Her daughter learns that she should never have to live with abuse, that she can get out, that she can get help, that there will be others outside who can help her. Her son learns that violence is never a solution, whatever the provocation. Very often when I volunteer at the SPCA, there are so many animals that are forgotten and frightened because of the history of abuse. All it takes is 10 minutes. We take them out, we give them a bath, we give them haircuts that make them look 10 years younger. We let them run around the shelter compound so that their hair will dry. I take out another animal for a bath, and guess where the first one went? Home. He's been adopted. Because he was left forgotten in a kennel previously, nobody noticed. So never underestimate the impact of your actions. 5 to 10 minutes are sometimes enough to create small miracles. Volunteering improves my skills and knowledge. As a volunteer, I'm exposed to a lot of situations which may be difficult or frustrating, but I learn to develop resilience, competence, and perseverance, all qualities that will stand me in good stead in life. Volunteering also trains me to manage my time, other people, and often very limited resources to the best of my ability. Volunteering reconciles my actions with my values. Instead of just picketing and demanding that the government shut down power plants and stop building more dams, we can take actions to reduce our energy and water use. We can find out technological and scientific solutions and propose them to community groups, to non-governmental organizations, to governmental bodies. We can engage them in discussions. We can educate members of our community, and we can lobby at the same time. Instead of just demanding that the government ends the culling of stray animals, we can get down and dirty and start rescuing animals ourselves. We can take them in. We can help others do so. We can help organizations and private shelters do so. We can engage local authorities in discussions. We can conduct workshops for them so that they learn humane animal control methods. Volunteering, that is why I say that volunteering empowers you to be the difference you want to see. Don't just sit there and say, someone should do this, the government should do that, that organization should do that. We are all individuals with a lot of potential and power. These are all little actions we can do which collectively would make a huge difference. Volunteering compels me to be creative. You might not think that it's a very, very big thing, but in my daily work, I don't have many opportunities to be creative. But as the coordinator of Eco Kids and Green Living, I have to keep the interest levels up, so I conduct camps and activities and events. I design games. For example, in the pictures there, the boy is playing the 3-hour game. I invented that, and it's been copied by many other organizations and outreach groups since. Volunteering enables me to develop leadership skills. It doesn't matter whether I hold any rank or position in an organization or whether I'm acting under any organization at all. Volunteering compels you to make the first move and take action. Volunteering trains me to set my inhibitions aside and stop worrying about what others might think. For example, once when I was on a company trip at a beach, I went to the hotel staff and asked for 2 garbage bags. I started picking up litter from the beach. So my colleagues, being Malaysian, they looked away because they were embarrassed. I turned around, and what happened next? 2 tourists joined in, and they started helping me pick up trash. And then 3 more joined in. And then a whole little family joined in. And the next time I turned around, my colleagues were at the back picking up litter. I didn't have to ask any of them to do it. I was prepared to do it myself. So volunteering teaches you to do things that might not make you popular, but it's the right thing to do. We should never feel embarrassed about doing the right thing. Volunteering is a great way to express gratitude. To me, gratitude doesn't come any purer than a willingness to share what it is that you are grateful for. For me, I am grateful for my relative good health, so I donate blood at the National Blood Bank. I am grateful for all the wonderful animals that have come into my life, so I volunteer to help other needy animals to create better opportunities for them. I'm grateful for the education I receive, so I volunteer with literacy and reading programs in the hopes of extending at least a little of that opportunity to others. Volunteering encourages us to take stock and to look at things in perspective. In the days following the Sandy Hook Elementary School massacre in the US, a wonderful movement was set up online to encourage members of the public to carry out 26 random acts of kindness as a tribute to the 26 victims of the tragedy. Participants in this exercise reported feeling a greater sense of empowerment and optimism and less anger and depression. So volunteering can combat depression and feelings of helplessness. I'm often asked, how do you do it all? Don't you suffer from burnout? You're already taking on so much. Why do you keep taking on more? Well, I believe that although they are well-meaning, only we can tell what our limitations are. I'm not afraid to take on more responsibilities sometimes. Sometimes you have to raise your expectations of yourself. I find that when I raise expectations of myself, I normally perform better, and often I even exceed my own expectations. We must all be self-aware and try to determine what our best skills are. As a lawyer, some of my best skills include research, writing, and drafting. So I try to volunteer these particular skills. But there are also many other skills I can develop and sharpen, and I do the same. This is a picture of my friend Julia, who's an avid marathon runner. So now she has started to volunteer as a marathon buddy for visually impaired individuals. One of the most important things you can do before you commence volunteering with any organization or cause is to conduct your due diligence, conduct your research, find out more about the organization. Where are the funds going? Where do the volunteers come from? Who's in the board of trustees? Who's in the board of directors? Find out opening hours. These are the practical things. Find out opening hours, travel routes. What do you have to bring? Before I go out for an outdoor volunteering activity, I make sure I have drinking water, a first aid kit, sunblock, mosquito repellent, a change of clothes, anything that would make the experience a positive one. I call up or email people in advance to make sure they are expecting me. They know I'm coming and they know that there's a particular number of volunteers joining me. Time management is essential, so I set goals and deadlines for myself. For example, because I volunteer on weekends, I know that all my household chores and errands and office work should be completed by Friday. This frees up time for volunteering. This also means eliminating time-wasting habits like procrastinating and watching TV and surfing the net and yakking on the phone, hanging out at shopping malls. Volunteering is a privilege and a pleasure. People often ask me, well, I was asked prior to this talk as well, they said, what are your life goals as a volunteer? What are my hopes and dreams as a volunteer in Malaysia? It is not to continue volunteering for an ever-increasing number of organizations and societies and women's shelters and animal shelters. It is that one day, laws and society would be sufficient to protect the vulnerable, would be sufficient to protect vulnerable individuals, animals, and the environment. It is also my hope that one day, volunteering will be such an integral part of Malaysian consciousness that so many people would carry out community service that a volunteer like me will no longer be exceptional.